Recording. All right, guys. Thank you so much all for joining. This is Prashant Kumar, your host. We meet here every 2 weeks, and we try to bring in some of the industry experts who are into real estate, not just in multifamily, but in other areas also. My name is Prashant Kumar. You see my slide right now. I think we are a couple of us here on the webinar right now, and I have a guest whom I'm going to introduce you in like a minute. But just a little bit about myself. Basically, folks, just my um, shameless introduction. It's not needed too much. I mean, most of you know who I am. I'm a multifamily syndicator with a strong technology background, and I spend a lot of time analyzing deals. I've been involved in about 1,200 units in GP capacity, own my own portfolio of 100 units, and I have been exploring assisted living for last 2 years, and we are trying to get into a ground up project for assisted living. The goal of my life is not just to do business, but to extend help to those who are getting into the business, and hopefully help others to so that they grow too. So I mean, I plan to do syndications in multifamily and assisted living, but more than that, I'm here to help, uh, and we do these webinars just to share the knowledge. It just so happens that we're going to share a little bit more today, so stick around till the end. We have few freebies to give away. Having said that, um, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to introduce my great friend Mike Morawski. I know Mike for almost, I would say, maybe 6 months or a year. But ever since I talked to Mike, we had great connection. We talked lot of times actually. Not just, he's a busy person. I mean, very busy person. We talked a lot of times, and we kind of connected very, very well. So Mike has been in 30 Mike has been in real estate for 30 years, right, Mike? And
Yep.
he has control over $285 million worth of real estate transactions. He's an entrepreneur, author, real estate trainer, public speaker, and personal coach with strong personal resilience and a deep desire to help others live an extraordinary life. He has coached hundreds of real estate investors to fulfill their dreams. He's an author of Exit Plan. He's a founder, CEO of Micro Intentions. He's the host of Insider Secrets podcast. He's a real estate trainer, personal coach, and I mean, his his introduction can go on and on. There's no topic in real estate which he cannot talk about. Today, we are going to focus on the importance of an exit plan. Uh, Having said that, Mike, very, very welcome to our webinar today. I would, I don't have any words to say. I mean, how much I know you, and how much have I learned from you. So, Mike, once again, thank you so much for joining.
Prashant, thanks for having me on, and thanks for the warm welcome. I appreciate that very much, and glad to be here this evening.
Very good, Mike. So, Mike, this is a small group today. For whatever reason, we had decided that we would do it on March 4th, and there was an emergency. I had to travel, and so we postponed this uh, for today. But doesn't matter. This webinar is going to go is on Facebook Live. It's going to go on our YouTube channel, and a bunch of people will watch this, and people continue to join as we go along. So I would like to ask Mike your pet peeves. What is that brought you to real estate? I mean, tell us a little bit about your background and tell us why real estate and what is the best. things that you have learned in real estate?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I love your question, why real estate, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder, I don't know. I grew up in a family that wasn't entrepreneurial, didn't do real estate, weren't in business for themselves. But, one of the lessons I learned growing up was my dad would always say, hey, if you're ever going to go into business for yourself, go into food, shelter, or clothing. And, I never knew how much that meant until I decided to go into business for myself. And I've been in shelter forever, right? I
Mhm.
had a general contracting business, and I was, I had grown a pretty good size general contracting company in the suburbs of Chicago. And one morning I woke up and I was just burnt out. I couldn't do it anymore. And I decided to sell my company and take a year off. And during that time, I house hacked. My wife and I at the time, we house hacked. And this was long before house hacking was sexy or fun to do, right? Now
Mhm.
everybody does it. But
Mhm.
back then, it was not the thing to do. And we did two flats during that time. And I found that I met a real estate agent who was very successful. And one thing I had known was success always left clues. So I went to him and I said, Todd, I'm thinking about going into the real estate business. And he said, I think you'll be very successful at it. He goes, all you have to do is apply some principles and stay focused and you'll do well. I said, well, would you teach me what to do or could I come and shadow you? And he said, no, what I'll do is I'll make you a cassette tape. Now, Prashant, I'm going to date myself a little bit because not only is a cassette tape hard to find today, but a thing to make a cassette tape on is hard to find today. So uh, I, but he made me a cassette tape and I listened to that thing over and over and over again to understand what I needed to do to go out and build a real estate business. I went into real estate in 1990, and my first 8 months in the business, I sold 78 homes and was Remax Rookie of the Year that year. I went on to build a team that we sold 125 houses a year and did that about 8 years consecutively.
Interesting.
Yeah. And
Sure.
so then as time rolled along, 2005 started to come along and I realized that the market was starting to soften. Wasn't really sure what I was going to do, but I knew that I wouldn't be able to keep that same production up. Now, I'd always wanted to be in the apartment business. When I was in the construction business, I did a lot of work for a company who today is the largest REIT in the world. And I watched these guys. It was 4 high school teachers. They bought their first 4-unit apartment building in Chicago, and from there they grew to be, the largest REIT in the world in every asset class across the block. And what when I was in the apartment or in the construction business, so I did a lot of work for these guys on their swimming pools and in their apartments, and I understood the model. That simple method of private equity where you raise money from private individuals, you marry it with a great real estate deal. And Prashant, as long as everything goes okay, everybody makes money. So 2005, I made a decision to go in the apartment business.
Mhm.
And I started to syndicate apartment deals. I did my first deal, and it was a small 11-unit apartment building. And how I raised the money on that was I put a little ad in the newspaper that said real estate investors wanted, and my phone rang off the hook. And I was able to raise about $200,000 on a $600,000 deal. And I thought, wow, this is going to be great.
Mhm.
And over the next 18 months, I raised over the next 18 months, I raised $18 million.
Wow.
Let me back up. Over the
Mhm.
next 30 months, I raised $18 million. I bought
Wow.
$60 million worth of real estate, and it was about just under 4,000 units in 5 different states.
Wow. In 2.5 years, you were able to raise $30 million. Mike, um, I would like to just ask, was the Reg D prevalent that time? Because I'm not from that time.
Yeah.
I did not start doing real estate at that time. Did you have to write PPMs, 506B versus 506C? Anything like that was there for you, or you could just place the ad on the newspaper for any deal
Yeah.
that you may have?
You could not place an ad in the newspaper. You could not raise money like you can raise money today.
Hmm.
What people do on social media today, what people do with crowdfunding today was absolutely not what we did then. You
Hmm.
know, we I put an ad in the paper. I didn't talk anything about raising money, and I only did it that one time. I
Yeah.
said real estate investors want it, and when people called, because what I knew about and you know, I didn't know a lot, but what I knew about it was that I had to have a relationship with somebody in order. So when people called, I would tell them, you know, hey, you know, we're syndicating an apartment deal and raising money. I'm looking for partners, and but that was the only time I did it. After beyond that, what I started to do was have seminars in my office. And
Hmm.
every Tuesday and Thursday night for about 2 years, I put 20 new faces in a conference room in my office.
Hmm.
And what I did was I taught the principles of real estate investing. And
Hmm.
at the end of the seminar, I would say, hey, by the way, I have this deal that we're raising money on. And I would show that. And you know, it was kind of funny because at that time people wanted to just write you a check right now, all the time. And
Wow.
I always would say, you know, we can't do that. You know, we have to let you walk away for 3 days and, you know, that cooling off period and not talk to people and, you know, have that relationship with them,
Hmm.
which was, you know, I tended to walk in a gray area sometimes in those relationships, but um, you know, we learned along the way on that.
Hmm.
So
Okay. Oh, very nice. I mean, that's impressive that, I mean, nowadays raising money has sort of become so difficult in the sense that if you don't know, if you are new, or if you are trying to just raise money over social media, it's just not possible that easy. I mean, it's not that easy. It
right,
it is easy that you can do it on social media, but social media is full of those things all the time, right? They are
yeah,
like, I mean, I get like 15, 20 uh, offering memorandums, I mean, in my inbox, like on a daily basis. It's so difficult for me to even, look at them, let alone putting LOI against them. And then, everybody, those who are in those deals, they are sending emails, like
yeah,
I am sending emails to everybody.
right.
So, no, interesting, interesting. So, Mike, tell us, when you did your first syndication or your subsequent syndications, how did you start them and what was there in your mind? I mean, I know the topic today is know your exit plan before you enter in a deal.
Right.
So, educate our listeners today on what was your strategy, um, what were you thinking, in all these years, when you entered those deals?
So exit plan wasn't something that I thought about from the beginning, right?
Okay. Hmm.
When I did my first syndication, I was so excited that I was going to buy this 11 unit deal,
Hmm.
and that not only were we going to be able to buy it, but that I had found people who were going to invest in it. And when I found two investors that were going to put up the money to do this deal, I was beside myself. I made some mistakes. I didn't do the due diligence that should have been done. I didn't
Hmm.
look at early evaluation things like uh, you know, crime rates and population growth and job growth. I took the seller's word on everything.
Hmm.
And worse than that, I took the seller's word and the broker's word. Now it was
Hmm.
11 unit deal, right? It wasn't a big deal,
Hmm.
but it was a disaster. I
Hmm.
bought that deal. When we closed on it, I went, oh my gosh, what did we buy? Right? Because the seller said, oh, you'll be able to raise the rents $50. Well, the rents were already $50 too high.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to move those tenants out, remodel, and put new tenants in. Well, we weren't able to do any of that. It was in a really bad part of town. Matter of fact, the police visited the property 28 times a month. Now,
Mhm.
in February, they were there more than the days in the month, right? But
Wow.
through the regular time, they were there at least once a day on domestic disputes.
Mhm.
So it was really a bad deal. But here's
Mhm.
what I realized after buying that. And I called my broker and I said, look, I said, we did this wrong. We have to do this right. I have to develop a buying criteria. And
Mhm.
that was my first step, I think, towards developing an exit plan. And that was, what does that buying criteria look like? Well, how much did I want to pay per unit? What market did I want to be in? What class of product did I want it to be? What what did I want it to look like aesthetically? The
Mhm.
first deal I bought was a flat roof deal, and I hated it. So
Mhm.
after that, I went on and we bought pitched roofs, right? So it all came down to buying strategy and what we were going to buy.
Mhm.
But along the way, I realized that it wasn't just going into the deal, it was
Mhm.
coming out, and that we had to start to work on the exit plan as
Yeah.
well.
Mhm.
Um, I read a book years ago by Stephen Covey, which was Seven Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah.
And in that book, chapter 2 is start with the end in mind. And for whatever reason, that stuck with me forever, for a long time.
Mhm.
So I look at it this way. I said, I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years on coaching and training and books and tapes
Mhm.
and some really great trainers in the marketplace. I've had some really great coaches myself.
Mhm.
Here's what I found out though is everybody teaches you how to get in a deal.
Yeah.
Everybody teaches you how to buy it, find it, get in it, and operate it. Nobody teaches you how to get out.
Yeah.
And what I realized is that we need to know how to get out of the deal. And you need to know and have that exit plan before you ever even get to the closing table when you're on your purchase side.
Mhm.
So, and it starts early on with your evaluation. It starts with your projections. It starts with your CapEx plan, your operational plan, the things that you're going to do along the way to re-engineer that property and get it ready to put back on the market.
Mm. So do you ever have like multiple exit plans? I mean, multiple exit strategies? I mean, you may plan for something, plan A, but it really happens that plan A works.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
that's a great question. I just had this conversation with somebody this afternoon, so it's kind of funny that you're even bringing it up again. But yeah,
uh-huh.
I think you need to have multiple exit plans.
Yeah.
And here, here's how I think that you need to look at it, right? When you evaluate a deal and you look at a 10-year projection on that deal,
Hmm.
there's invariably a sweet spot somewhere along the way. And
Yeah.
by that, I mean that somewhere between 5.5 years and 8 years, you're going to have your most profitable point, right? So why not do something at that point? Why not recapitalize the property? Why not restructure the deal? Pull capital out and re-engineer the property to run it again for a number of years. So you need to look at different scenarios. Here, what happens along the way if you bring a partner in a deal? How do
Uh-huh.
you re-engineer it? There's an exit there at that point when you would bring a new partner in. Say you're in a deal with private equity investors,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden an institutional partner wants to come in a deal, and you
Yeah.
structure a deal like that. You have to have an exit plan around that. Then you have to
Yeah.
have an exit plan a number of years down the road again. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think it's something you always have to keep in mind. There's a saying in real estate that says we make money when we go in the deal,
Yeah.
which is true. It's how we buy it and it's based on the terms that we buy it at, right?
Right.
But we don't realize that gain till we exit.
Yes.
So, and here's the interesting thing, Prashant, is that exiting doesn't always mean that you are selling out of the deal or giving up control.
Yeah.
You could recapitalize, bring a partner in. There's a number of things you can do along the way.
Got it. And yeah, I mean, in my mind, basically those who get into real estate, for them, getting into real estate is buying a single family home, or buying a multifamily where they have partnership, so they have the pride of ownership, and for them, exit is okay, I'm done, I have sold this property. But to your point, elaborate on that a little bit more, Mike, if you would. What do you exactly mean by other ways of exiting, if it is okay with you?
Yeah, so it's like what I said a minute ago about we did a deal one time where we were trying to bring a institutional partner in to buy the deal originally, and the institutional partner I couldn't get him over the goal line.
Mhm,
I think it was a level of trust at that point, a point where he didn't believe in us as an operator yet.
mhm,
So I had this deal under contract. We had to get it closed. We had to get it closed before our earnest money had already gone hard. And so I brought private investors to the table, and we were able to close the deal with private investors.
mhm,
Well, about 8 months later, the institutional buyer decided that he wanted in on the deal. So, because he had watched, and I kept sending him reports of what we were doing on the property. We were doing renovations, we were re-tenanting the property, we restructured it, we raised rents, we got a lot of repairs done, we did some curb appeal, and it was operating at a higher level. The NOI had increased, the value had increased. So now we bring this new partner in. It was an institution, and the life insurance company came in. We took out the private investors in the deal. They made a little bit of extra money. And, we put this institutional buyer in and continued to run the deal. We
mhm.
ran the deal out again. So I think that there's things you need to look at and see how they're going to work for you. Hey, I talked about, there being a sweet spot along the way. What if
Uh,
at year 7,
mhm.
uh, if you ran a performa for 10 years, and at year 6 or year 7, you hit your most profitable point in the deal?
Yeah.
Why not have a plan around the fact that, hey, I'm going to go in, I'm going to do a, um, I'm going to do a cash out refi. I'm going to
Mhm,
pull that out. I'm going to pull that capital out of the property,
mhm,
uh, and I'm going to do a principal buy down on my equity investors.
mhm.
Now, as the sponsor, you own more of the asset. You've done a principal buy down. Your investors have less, or have less principal in the deal. You can structure that a number of different ways. You can leave them in at the same equity piece. You can reduce their equity. You have a number of different choices. So what's interesting about understanding your exit plan is that you understand the choices that you have. And it's all about the choices we make, isn't it, Prashant?
Yeah,
Because
that is actually correct. I mean, whenever we are doing something, we always have multiple choices. To
sometimes they're good and sometimes they're bad.
that is correct, and there are some bad choices also. Well, Mike, very interesting. We are having good conversation, and I'm learning a lot. Those who joined a little late, today's guest is Mike Morawski, a great friend of mine, coach, entrepreneur, real estate tycoon, controlled $285 million worth of real estate in past. He has books, author, coached many people. We are going to take a break, Mike, for about 5 minutes, and we're going to come back and continue this conversation. Guys, please don't go, don't leave, because towards the end we have few freebies. Mike has a book to share with everybody. Plus, I have few other things. Because this is a closed group and we are only few of us, I'm just going to pitch my deal, which I'm working on right now, and it's just for information purposes. Um, we have a 272 unit apartment complex that we are buying, syndicating in Houston market. Very good B class asset that we are purchasing. And just a little bit about this asset is, it's 100% of the units on this asset are in original classical condition. Nothing has been updated. It's an institutional grade asset with true valued opportunity that we have. and huge management upside. This is owned by a REIT, and the REIT has the property management company, and they have kind of brought it down a little bit. So the economic vacancy is approximately 80%. And this is a recession proof, pandemic insulated, spacious floor plan. For us, 77% are bedrooms, 2 bedrooms and townhomes, individual HVACs, how the roofs are new. We have almost new boilers, and it's nowhere near to the flood zone. Some of the pictures of the assets are, as you see, I mean, these are one of the better pictures. Some of them are not so great. But why do we like this deal? As we said, it's an institutional grade asset with a rare valued opportunity. 100% of units are in classic condition, original classic condition, highly desirable Class B location, close to everything, uh, you know, such as Spring, Texas or Woodland, Texas, very close to the airport, about 12 miles from the airport. Ample job opportunities, Amazon, HP, Toyota, Exxon Mobil, Cisco, um, things like that. Annual medium income is 57K in the 5 miles radius. Recession, and I mean, we talked about it, experience and world. So the important thing in this deal for us is our property manager is the partner on this deal. So it is vertically integrated deal for us. And our business plan, again, I'm skipping through very fast. It is going to be less than 2 minutes and will be over. We have physical vacancy. We are going to address that first. Burning off lost to leases, install and build back cable and internet, upgrade up to 25% of units, increase curb appeal. So there are just too many things on this property where we can improve our net operating income. There are three classes of shares that we have. Class A is fixed 10% cash on cash return. We have possible depreciation of 40%. Class B is 8% preferred, and Class C is 7% preferred. So Class B will yield approximately 85% in 5 years. Class C will yield about 80% in about 5 years. This is our projection. We have 40% possible bonus depreciation. So all in all, about 1.85 times, 1.8 to 1.85 times in 5 years at a very, very conservative, very conservative underwriting. I don't have the slides here, but our income growth that we have, oh, here it is. First year total income increase, we said only 2%, exit cap rate 6%, and stabilized economic vacancy of 10%. These three are the conservative underwriting assumptions that we have. Along with that, we have property management, vertically integrated, and property management is charging only 2% management fees. And that particular property management company has about 14 assets in Houston market, and their expense ratio range from anywhere from 27 to 42%. We have underwritten this deal at 50+% expense ratio. So all in all, our numbers are extremely conservative. We have $2.5 million capital improvement budget. 6 months worth of interest reserves are held, and we have cash reserves held by the company. So all in all, it's a cash heavy deal. Just wanted to pitch it out to the folks here on the webinar. Those who are interested, I'm gonna send a link. If you are interested, say yes. I will send you an email also. But in the chat window, I'm gonna leave a link. If you are interested, you can watch the webinar, or you can sign up for a soft commitment. That's all. I mean, I didn't want to take too much time. That was really not the purpose of this webinar. That's not what I do usually. It just so happens today we have a deal, and I have a deal usually once in like 3 months or 6 months. So thanks for this opportunity. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to go back to Mike. All right, Mike, we are back here. Sorry for the interruption in between. Um, so, Mike, guys, feel free to ask any questions that you may have, uh, for Mike, and I'm gonna monitor the chat window. But Mike, what you were talking earlier in terms of the exit plan, uh, what you said about multifamily, I mean, that is something that comes with experience, right? I mean, this is not something that any new person would be able to kind of put together, in the middle of the project. In the middle of the project, try to take out the equity and bring in institutional buyers. Uh, it's kind of relating to the creative financing for single family homes. Is that a correct assumption that I would say?
Um, are you asking, is it like refinancing a single family home?
Yeah, so you remember we have creative ways of doing our single family business also, right? Where we do the refinancing or we, you know, lease to rent to lease kind of things.
Right.
There are a bunch of things that we do, creative ways of owning the real estate in single family world. Similarly, in multifamily, um, the things that you were just talking, are they similar or they are different?
Well, I think they're similar, okay, but they're different, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not the same process. The commercial process is different than the residential process.
Mhm.
However, the principles are the same, right? And it's, I'm huge about mastering the fundamentals. It's like when I would teach my kids little league team to continually field the grounders, right? And they would always get so frustrated because, oh, coach, can't we do pop ups or can't we have batting practice? And no, because it, you've got to learn the fundamentals first. And I believe that when you learn the fundamentals along in the multifamily business, in the residential business, that you can do the same uh, techniques in the commercial space.
So basically, to get into commercial space, I mean, not everybody can get into commercial space so easily, right? I really want to understand what does it take for somebody to get into commercial space and and make their way through.
Yeah. So, I don't think that, I don't believe that you can go out and buy a 200 unit apartment complex the first deal that you're going to do.
Mhm.
Um, I never thought when I went into the apartment business, I never had a vision that I would be buying 200 unit apartment complexes, but I was buying 300 and 400 unit apartment complexes. The first deal I did was 11 units. And then there's that transition. Remember, I said I had to design a buying strategy after I bought that first deal. Then I started to look at other deals in other markets. So I bought an 11 unit, then I bought a 64 unit and an 87 unit. And then when it was 100 and I think the next one was like 130 and then 180. So it was a transition, right? I think that every time you do a deal, whether it's on coming out of the residential market and on the residential side to going into the commercial side, every time you do a deal, you learn something different. And you need to pay attention to the things around you that happen, right? Because there's things that'll come up. There's red flags that you're going to see along the way. Don't ignore them. I talked about our business and how fast we grew. Well, to buy in 2007, I closed 17 deals. It was about 2,700 units, and I would never advise anybody to do that, because it creates an instability in your business. For us, it was like, because of lack of experience, right?
Mhm.
We were very unstable. It was like balancing on two legs of a four-legged chair. And based on those transactions, I put the company in a position where it wasn't much longer before we were going to be in a really tough situation and falter. Um, so, there were a number of mistakes that I made along the way in the transition because of lack of experience.
Mhm.
And I think experience happens as a result of doing deals, getting your knowledge, looking at things, thinking things through from the beginning to the end, understanding what the exit needs to be, understanding what the process along the way is,
Mhm.
and making the mistakes. Because you're going to make mistakes, but how do you get up from those mistakes that we
So,
make?
how much do you think is your mindset? What is the role of mindset in this journey? I know our mindset is we want to go for bigger and better and bigger and better and bigger and better all the time, but at the same time, you don't want to burn yourself also.
Right.
So tell me a little bit about the kind of mistakes that I mean, you mentioned just about one of them right now. What did you learn, and I mean, what they do to your mindset, or what was the reason those things happened, and what is the role of the mindset in general
Yeah.
in your growth?
I like that question. I think that that's a great question about mindset. I believe in anything that we do, our mindset is really important. We have to stay committed to the process, and we have to believe in ourselves and believe in the process, right? Um, However, there are things that happen along the way that you, you know, mindset, you, you can't control. Okay. 2008, the world hit the worst economic crisis ever. And I don't care how good somebody's mindset was, you aren't going to control that when that happens, right? That's going to happen. And as a result of a number of business mistakes that I made along the way, when we got to 2008, we had some problems moving forward from that point on as a result of where the world went.
Yeah. So basic thing is, yes, you have a great mindset, but you are still making some mistakes, which are not your not something wrong that you have done. How to
Well,
avoid those mistakes,
yeah. Well, some of it was what I had done. Okay. So along the way, some of the mistakes that I made was I was over leveraged.
Mhm.
So I bought $60 million worth of real estate at about 15% down. I had 85% loan to value.
Mhm.
That's a disaster waiting to happen. When you
Yeah.
look at it today, I would never advise anybody, just because the bank is going to throw money at you or the
Mhm.
lenders are going to throw money at you, to go into deals at that level of loan to value.
Mhm.
You want to make sure that you're 65 to 70% loan to value on everything across the board.
Mhm.
The other thing was I overpaid for properties. The
Mhm.
market, so 2008 happened, there was a crush in the residential side. I didn't really believe that it was going to affect the commercial side,
Mhm.
much less that I believed that it was going to affect the multifamily side, but it did.
Mhm.
And as a result of that, I kept buying properties as property values were going up. There was this false inflation of property values, and we paid it.
Mhm.
And so I overbought for properties. I was over leveraged. I bought too many properties too fast.
Mhm.
I was very unstable. And then I had, I built a pretty substantial company, had a lot of people around the country working for me, some who were very good at what they did and some who weren't. And uh, as a result of some people's inability to handle the pressure and handle what was going on, there were some more mistakes made. That instability rolled over into management, it rolled over into operations, and not being able to run deals properly, right? Not being able to structure, or you can write a really good business plan, but if you don't have somebody executing that business plan who can execute it, then it's not worth the paper it's written on. And I can tell you that we wrote some really good business plans, and but the execution on them was not very good. So I had a tendency, I did not look at the red flags. There were a number of red flags of things going on in my business that I didn't pay attention to. I was under the opinion that if I could close another deal and bring some more capital in, that would keep things running and keep things afloat. So what ultimately wound up happening was that in 2008, it's funny because, Lehman Brothers went out of business, Bear Stearns, AIG, some companies that have been around for years and years. You had lenders like Countrywide and Taylor Bean and Whitaker, and some major lenders in the country just get destroyed because of what happened in the markets: bad paper, bad debt, foreclosures. There were a number of things that happened. I thought we could weather the storm. Well, we couldn't, and because of the instability, because of the over leverage, we started to see deals go to foreclosure. So by mid 2009, we started to have properties that went from mid to low 90s in occupancy drop into the low 70s in occupancy. All of a sudden, we started to lose our NOI. Property values went down, and we couldn't sustain the storm. Couldn't pay the bills. Couldn't pay investors. Ultimately, what wound up happening was I got charged with wire fraud and mail fraud charges, and ultimately pled guilty and was sentenced to 10 years in federal prison as a result of it.
Sorry.
So, sometimes the best laid plans don't go really well, right?
Yeah.
And so there were those mistakes made along the way. I took responsibility for the mistakes. Here's what happened, and here's why it happened. I moved money between companies. So I had some very profitable companies, some companies that were throwing off good revenue, and then I had a number of companies that weren't, that were running very poorly. So I would take money from good profitable companies, move them into the other companies. As a result of that, I didn't disclose it to my investors. And because of non-disclosure to my investors is the reason that I wound up getting charged with wire fraud and mail fraud charges. It's funny, our lifestyles never changed. I didn't buy a bigger house or fly private, didn't have a boat, no summer homes. But because we misappropriated funds and we didn't tell the investors, Prashant, if I would have come to you and said, hey, listen, we have a problem with this deal. We need to move some money over here. We'll put it back as soon as the market comes back. You probably would have said, okay. But here was my belief in it too. My belief was, okay, so you're back to the mindset question. And my belief was that I had never seen a recession last longer than 17 or 18 months. I'd never seen a correction in the marketplace be greater than 10%. Here we've got a real estate correction and a market overall correction of 40%. Here we have a correction that lasted 7 or 8 years, and there's still people today who haven't recovered from it. So as a result of everything that happened around me, I made some mistakes, tried to protect all my investors because for me, I'm the kind of guy that hates to fail. And I don't want to come to you and say I made a mistake or fail. I'm the oldest born, right? I'm the hero. So I want to make sure that I do good by you. So I couldn't come to you and tell you that something was wrong. Plus, I wrote my documents wrong. And in my documents, I wrote that we would never come and ask for a cash call. Another mistake. So I made, I have a list of probably 20 business mistakes that I made that, when I go to syndicate deals next time and raise money again, that I'll be really clear on those mistakes of how not to make them. So I did go to prison in 2013. I served about 7.5 years in a federal prison camp. I came home in March of last year, and I've been home a little more than a year now. While I was gone, I wrote 2 books. The first book, of course, I wrote was Exit Plan, Your Complete Guide to Multifamily Investing and Why You Need an Exit Plan Before You Buy. I wrote a property management book, which I hope to have out later this year. I taught real estate investing and property management in prison for 5 years. I wrote an ethics course that I taught for 5 years. I went to college. I got a bachelor's degree in theology. I taught Bible study for 5 years. I was on an outreach program, went into the community, told my story about 40 times to the local businesses, some major corporations in the area, and to the colleges in the area. We were on this rotation with different classes. During that time, I met a professor from the University of Minnesota who was, I went to his class probably 4 or 5 times while I was on this outreach program. We developed a relationship, and we co-authored a white paper that just got published in the Business Journal of Ethics on my case study. Today it gets taught at the college level for forensic accounting classes and sales and marketing classes. So I learned a lot while I was gone. I learned a lot along the way. And today I'm home and I'm in the training and coaching business. And, I hope that when I deliver my message, that it brings a message of, we can have this great success. We can lose everything. But now what are you going to do? You can stub your toe, but are you going to let it keep you down? So I chose to bounce back, right? And I have a whole, there's a story behind that, when I was gone, I was probably about 6 weeks into my prison stay. I was in a really bad place. I went to prison, thought I was losing everything. And then I thought that could be the worst thing that happened in my life. And then my wife told me that she was going to leave me. And when that happened, and that just ruined me. And the people around me, and the interesting thing about prison is that people kind of help each other. They come to your rescue, even the guys that you think are the worst of the worst, they will come and they will lift you up and they will help you when you're down and in need. But this guy came up to me in the gym. I was probably gone for just under a couple of months. And he said, look, don't let these people beat you. All they want to do is take from you everything that you've ever done. He said, what they can't take from you is they can't take your mindset. They can't take who you are at the core. They can't take your knowledge and your experience. He goes, come to this gym every day, rebuild your life, feel better about yourself, and everything will start coming back. And I did. I started to go work out every day. One thing led to another. I wound up in college. I wound up writing books. I wound up teaching. And, today I'm here to give back and to help other people not make some of the same choices that I made, and show that there is redemption on the other side. So even when you struggle and fall and fail, get back up, because you can succeed.
Mike, hats off to you. I had not heard it from your mouth. I had read it a little bit, maybe somewhere, but hats off to you. I have no words to say. I mean, there's nothing I can say which can complement what you have done or what you have gone through and how you have come out of it. I feel my words would be small. So I would not say anything. I would not say anything to that. It's not worth even commenting. Um, all I can say is I'm, very humbly that, I adore your teachings. I have talked to you so many times. Even that word is not something that can, compliment you. it's beyond my comprehension. And that gives an opportunity for everybody else. I know a lot of people are saying amazing story, great lessons. Um, you know, we all learn from our mistakes, and some of these things are maybe are not the mistakes. They, it's just the desire to continue to do something good. That ends up making us do something which in law's dictionary is not the right thing. So I mean, I would not comment on anything. I'm too small to say anything about that.
Huh.
um, so guys, anybody has any questions? I know we have come to the almost to the end of the hour. Typically we try to go into the smaller groups, but today is just a small group here. And feel free to unmute yourself if you have any questions. Mike, by your permission, if anybody has any questions, they can ask you directly, or folks are asking your contact information, Mike. So if you
Yeah.
want to.
Yeah, a couple things. So, like I said, I did write a book called Exit Plan: Your Complete Guide to Multifamily Investing and Why You Need an Exit Plan. It was funny. A couple people have asked me over the last few months, "Is that an exit plan? How to break out of prison?" And I had to laugh, but no, it's not. But you can go download a copy of that book for free. You go to mycoreintentions.com/exit plan, and you can get a free ebook. And it's funny because somebody said to me one day, they downloaded it and they went, "Man, this is a real book." So, it's 256 pages. Some people think that it's just a little white paper or something, but it's a book. So, and then if you want to reach me, you can contact me. My email is mike@mycoreintentions.com, or, and I'm on social media. So LinkedIn, Instagram, you can find me. I'm out there. So
Very good, Mike. Guys, just few more things from my side also. Those who are interested in learning the benefits of passive investing, I have 7-day email course on my website, myrealtygains.com, and I'm going to leave the link here. I have it's a free video course that I have created for a bunch of my friends. And anybody wants to join the Passionate Passive Investor Club, a little bit more deeper knowledge than 7-day email course. All free stuff, nothing, nothing, no charge, no obligation of any sort. And those who want, basically, I'm going to send the link for this new deal that I'm working on to everybody. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to call me or do a soft reserve if you are interested in that. Having said that, one last call for any questions.
Horst Corral says he needs to be unmuted because he
Oh,
said he had a
oh,
question.
did she? Okay. Okay. Let me see. How can I unmute Corel? Let me see. Corel. Okay. Oh, Forest Corel. Okay. Ask to unmute. I'm trying to unmute her, and I don't know how to unmute her. So do you want to type your message? I'm not able to unmute you.
Is there nothing next to
I see it says ask to unmute. I'm asking to unmute. And Mike's last name is Mike Morawski, Morawski. Mike Morawski. Yeah, I'm unable to unmute you. I do not know why. I mean, when I ask you to unmute, you should be able to unmute yourself, basically. I'm not able to unmute you. I'm sorry about that. Or please type your question here in the chat box. Um, Yes, Mike, thank you so much. Mike Diamond is saying is thank you. But yes, Mike, thank you so much for attending. And we will be in touch soon. Feel free to subscribe to my email list. So Cody Loughlin is saying, Mike, always inspired by your story and perseverance. Thanks for being authentic. And thanks, he's thanking me to
Thanks,
host.
Cody.
Yeah, thank you, Cody. All right, guys, thank you so much. We are on the top of the hour. Appreciate you spending time with us today evening. Uh, feel free to feel free to reach out to any of us